Hi everyone, this is just a quick tutorial that I'm doing for people who have missed any of my sessions over the last couple of weeks, and also for people who want to have a recap over what we've done already. So I'm going to start right from the beginning. What we're going to do first of all is open up a new project. So if you remember, when you click on Unity, you are presented with the project window. So we're going to create a new project, and we're going to set that project as well, and I'm going to set that to my desktop. As I am doing this on a Mac, it may look slightly different, but the principles are the same. So basically the windows and everything are going to be exactly the same if you're doing this on a Windows based PC. So that's set to save to my desktop. Obviously with your package, save that wherever you wish, and we're not going to import any packages. If you remember, in the first week we imported some of these packages. We're not going to do that today. We're just going to work with sprite sheets, and remembering we must set up the defaults for 2D, and we'll just create that project. So here we are, we have Unity, and again, Unity may look a little bit different to the version you have or to the version we have in college. The reason for that is because with Unity 4 it doesn't run on the same model as Unity 5. There's actually a free version, which is what I'm using today, and there is a pro version. That's the one that's dark grey. That's the one we have in college. It's exactly the same, so there's no need to worry about that. So as you can see, this is set up as a basic 2D package. So it's quite simple. What we're going to do first of all, we're just going to set up our project browser. So if you remember, we spoke about the importance of keeping things organised, keeping things tidy. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a few folders for what we need. So I'm going to call one sprites, and then I'm going to have one for animations, and then another for C#. As if you remember, if you have been in my sessions, the last few weeks we've looked at implementing C# code, and so we're just going to keep a folder for that just to keep everything nice and tidy. So what we've got there, we've got animations, C# script and sprites. That should be okay. So if you don't remember how to create a folder, what you need to do is make sure you're in your project browser with assets selected there, and then you just right click, create new folder, type in whatever you want. There's your folder set up, but for the purposes of today I'm just going to be using the animations, C# and sprites folder. So what we're going to do first of all, we are just going to bring in the assets basically. So if you remember, when we looked at importing assets, there's a few ways of doing that. I can either, so as you see, I've navigated to my sprites folder. I can either right click and import new asset. You can do it that way and navigate to the asset. Again, because I'm doing this on Mac OS, will look slightly different, but the principles are the same. Or as you can see, I have my character there. So all I'm going to do is drag and drop straight into the asset browser. If you remember, those are the two general ways that we've imported assets, so that's just a bit of a refresher for you. So what we're going to do now, we're going to set up this sprite ready for cutting it up and ready for starting to create the animations. So first of all, we're just going to look at the sprite. So when I select the sprite in my project browser, you can see that we're presented with some settings in our inspector window. So what we're going to do first of all, we always need to check the texture type, remember, make sure that that's set to sprite, 2D and UI. So that's automatically done that this time. And then when we look underneath that, we have sprite mode. So if you remember, we are working this time with a sprite sheet. If you look in this bottom right hand corner, it's got more than one image inside it. So what we need to do is change that to multiple. The pixels per unit, we're not going to worry much about that at the minute. When we look down to things like filter mode, that's not really going to make any difference, so we'll leave that as it is. When we're looking at these settings here, what we can do, we can actually look at the size of the image. The max size that it's set up for is 1024. If you look at the size of the image in the bottom, it's 800 by 1000, so that's fine. And with the format, compressed means that the image will basically be compressed, so you may lose some clarity. Because we're only creating this in Unity, it's not going to be exported to a phone or anything. It doesn't really matter that much at the minute. What you can do is if you set that to true colour and press apply, what that does, it sets the image in its native form, so it doesn't compress anything, so you're getting the true clarity of the image. So once we've done that and the sprite mode has been set to multiple, we're going to open up the sprite editor. So that's this little button here. And if you remember, looking back to weeks 2 and 3, when we looked at the sprite editor for both assets and a character, the first thing we need to do is slice up these sprites. So here in the top left hand corner of the sprite editor, there is a slice button. We press on that, and if you remember, there are 2 types of slicing. There's automatic and grid. For the purposes of what we're going to do today, we're going to use automatic slicing. What that'll do is when I click slice, Unit here has a clever little inbuilt algorithm that detects colour in a sprite. So as you can see, this sprite has transparency. So anything where the sprite is, there's colour. Anything where there isn't anything is completely clear. So this is quite good to use this type of image as Unity picks out the sprites. So what we're going to do, we're going to have to name these. And if you remember, to name a sprite, all we have to do is click on it. And then we are presented with the little options box in the right hand corner. So all I'm going to do is just quickly name these. So if you remember, the one at the top, the row of animations across the top, is an idle animation. So we're just going to name these, and as you can see, I'm naming them in a consecutive order. So there's 9 altogether, so I'm naming them idle 1, idle 2, idle 3, so on and so on. The reason we're naming them in a consecutive format is because we are going to use these to create animations, and we want to tell Unity that these assets or images are in a particular order. So if we set the naming conventions up like this, when we drag these images over to our animation window, it will automatically put them in the right order for us. So that's quite important, because otherwise what may happen is if you just drag them over as they are, you may get some issues. And as you can see, I've done that here with the naming conventions. I've named some of them idle with a capital I, and I've named some of them idle with a little I. So I'm just going to amend that just to make sure that they're all named the same, basically. We don't want anything being named in an odd way. We want to keep the naming conventions okay. So we've named the top row of sprites there. What we're going to do next is name the walking sprite. So as you can see, this sprite going across to the right is the right walk cycle. So what we're going to do is just name those. Rather than putting the word right, I'm just going to write R. R1, so then R2, R3, so on and so on. The reason I'm going to do it that way is just for the purposes of this video, it's a little bit quicker. If I was creating this within a game and I was incorporating lots of different animation cycles, I probably would amend these naming conventions, but for today I'm just going to use R and a numbering order, just so when we import them into the animation and create animations, it will pick them up consecutively. So that's the right one done. So this one across here, that's done. What we're going to do now is name the walk cycle going to the left, but we're going to change the naming convention a little bit. As the asset goes from right to left, from left to right in the right walk cycle, the left walk cycle is going to go from right to left. So we're going to name them the opposite way around. So the one at the right hand side is going to be L1, and the one right at the left hand side is going to be L8. So then obviously in between we have our naming conventions with the numbers consecutively. So I'm just going to quickly do these. So once they're done, if you remember, what we need to do is anything that we've changed in here, anything like changing a naming convention or moving a pivot point, which we're not going to worry about too much in this tutorial video, we must always remember to click apply. So that's here in the top right hand corner of the sprite editor window. So click apply, that's going to apply our settings. Once that's done, we close off that window and we can see that the settings have been applied, because if you look at the sprite now in here, there's a little arrow at the side of it. When I click that, it expands it and we have all of our sprites in there. So what we're going to do now, we are going to look at creating the animations, and that will be done in the next part of the video.